You know, recently we had the opportunity to spend some time with the music department. We went to a movie. We went to see the movie about Whitney Houston. Yeah. And you know, no matter what you think about her music, you have to admit the woman's talented, okay? Unbelievably talented. But the thing we learned from the movie, which we've all heard, is she also was very troubled. But the thing is she the only one? Do you know anybody that's talented and troubled? You better stay out the mirror. You know, we all have a little bit of that in us, you know, of being talented yet troubled. But I was glad to be with the group and I enjoyed it so much, but I couldn't get away from all of this talent. So think about it. She had money, she had talent, she had everything that people, most of us would say that we want, yet she also was troubled. So it's not the things in life that we have to worry about. There must be something else to this. So sometimes I hear my own thoughts and I think, who was that? That certainly couldn't be me. Somebody's talking in my head. Am I the only one? Sometimes I just don't believe it. Now, I have gotten to the fact these days where I don't say it, at least. I used to say it, but I don't say it anymore because, you know, you never know who you're around and what's going to happen, and you may wake up dead. But you know, I don't say it. You know, my father taught me a lesson. He said, before you say what you want to say, you should ask yourself, is it worth it? And I've learned over and over again that he was right. So I understand that in our humanness, we can be talented and we can be troubled. So I am going to Brené Brown's gift of imperfection. The gifts of imperfection. She writes, authenticity is the daily practice of letting go of whom we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are. Not who we're supposed to be, who we are. And that is what wholeness is. Exactly who we are. Authenticity is about being real. It's the whole thing. It's the 100. We say that we are whole, perfect, and complete, but if we only knew, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm good. But thank you, bless your heart, you know, thank her. Because there's some people that celebrate your mess, you know, she's out here helping me, thank you, love. We say that we're whole, perfect, and complete, but if you only knew sometimes, right? If you only knew, if you could only read my mind, sometimes it's just, I'm not really sure, right? That everything that I do I necessarily want to own up to? And unless you have video, I didn't do it. And then we still sending the video to the FBI to make sure it wasn't doctored. So a paradox is a statement of things that sound like a contradiction, right? So we expect one thing, but something else occurs. However, it comes with being human. It comes with our humanity. Because in our wholeness, somehow or another, I just recognize that I am a paradox. And I hope you recognize that you are too. I am not in this one by myself. So Whitney Houston was a paradox of talent and being troubled. Opposites do appear within one's wholeness and one's humanity. Even though we're whole, perfect, and complete, but I don't feel like it sometimes. But our spiritual truth says this morning that God is spirit, and those who love God must love in spirit and in truth. The truth is not correct belief. That's not what this is about. It is about authenticity. It is about realness, to embrace our imperfections and at the same time know that we are whole, perfect, and complete because the God that is within us is radiating out from us. Yeah, you should celebrate. The New Thought Dictionary puts it this way. It says that spirit is the creative principle of which humanity is the projection, a reflection, an incarnation. We get to choose how we express God in the world. And remember, if there's a cause and effect relationship from everything, if I am the effect, then the cause is all the power and the presence that can be revealed in me. There is only one ultimate mind, which we use, and there's only one spirit in which we live and move and have our being. The reality is perfect at our spiritual level, at our life. Then this perfection of ours is because God is there. So every place there is lack, God steps in and takes care of the rest of it. It is impossible to do it all right all the time. You're walking in the consciousness that you have at the time. Reflect on your past. You thought you were right. You thought it was the right thing to do. But sometimes we understand that we need to grow on out of it. What happens when we don't know about our wholeness and that we are whole, perfect, and complete? Brené Brown says that we end up in the web of shame. The framework of the web of shame is, what should I do and how should I do it? The center and the core of this web is shame, fear, blame, and disconnection. Shame is that warm feeling that we all have that washes over us, making us feel like that we are flawed and unworthy and that we just are not good enough or cannot be enough. But you are enough. You are enough all the time. It's your perception that people have of you. Sometimes we just make it all up. We don't know what they expect of us. And if you don't expect and love me just the way I am, then maybe it's time for me to have a new thought. You are good enough, more than enough. You are a reflection of the divine. Remember, the difference between shame and guilt is this. With guilt, I think I did something wrong. With shame, I think I am wrong. That I am wrong. It is normal to feel shame. It's just normal, just like pain, that it is an indicator that something is wrong. That's all it is. We can't be people that don't feel shame. If you're a person that doesn't feel shame, you know what you are? You lack the capacity for empathy and human connection. And you've met some of those people, I'm sure. We don't talk about shame. It is our dirty little secret. We don't talk about shame because we equate it with weakness. But you're not weak. Only thing we can do is to believe the lie. And when we believe the lie, we empower the lie and we believe it to be true. We equate it with weakness. Now, the thing about shame is you can visit, but don't move in. Because fear of being unlovable or unworthy will tear apart your life. The fear is behind it all. The fear of not being liked, of not being accepted, and maybe you're not accepted. Well, maybe those folks don't need to accept you to be who you are. In fact, you don't need anybody to accept you to be who you are. If you accept yourself, everybody else will fall in line. When we hide, it often comes out as issues about our appearance and our size and our weight and our money and our family problems and our health and our addictions, because we're just trying to treat the pain. Shame is called the master emotion, though, because as it is hidden and the world doesn't want us to talk about it, it sits back within us and just festers. And it creates all kinds of unhealthiness, all kinds of unhealthy behavior. Sometimes it starts, though, with the people that are closest to us. Many times it was the parents and teachers, sometimes ministers, not me. But most importantly, it's the self-inflicted shame that is the problem. When you decide that you are shameful and that you are inflicting the pain upon yourself, It's fueled by society. Why? Because society has to make us feel insecure so that we spend our money. That's what it's all about. If you look at media and read the paper and the television and the music, or just standing up here looking at me, you always think you need more. There's got to be more to it. If I look this way, if I am this way, then all of life will be okay. But the thing about it is you are okay already. I find it interesting in healthcare, which you know is what I do during the week, is that everything that people do in healthcare primarily is handled by insurance, except for plastic surgery. People pay cash for plastic surgery. Plastic surgery don't take insurance. And people pay for it. And if you've ever driven by a plastic surgery center, it ain't a dump. Okay? Now, I'm not bashing plastic surgery. I may have it again. You never know. That's where I got my hair. I'm not bashing it. But the issue is the priorities in our society, is that we are willing to pay to look a certain way. It's just the issue of a priority, but there's nothing wrong with plastic surgery. And like I say, I may do it again. I'm just drawing attention to the fact that these are our priorities in our society, and it is how it gets us to use our money. With shame, we can be manipulated by anything and anyone if we don't deal with it. With shame, we do one of three things. Either we move toward it, or we withdraw from the situation. But most importantly, what we do is if we do terrible things, is we use shame against other people. Because I'm shamed, I shame other people. And the thing about it is that nothing ever good comes out of shaming anyone. Shaming is not going to change anyone's behavior for something positive. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Especially in children. It causes disease of self-loathing and low self-esteem and low self-worth. It's terrible. Shame is a dirty little secret. Shame will not improve our behavior, anyone's behavior. It is only the reinforcement of the positive things in life that actually make us go in a positive direction. But if we're shame-based, what happens is we end up often in violence, aggression, and depression, addictions, eating disorders, all kinds of issues. And as long as we keep it hidden, it just grows on its own, unrevealed. Now, some people manage their shame by becoming a perfectionist. You know these perfect people that everything they do, it has to be perfect. And everything that you do has to be perfect by their measure, okay? But the issue is perfectionism is not self-improvement. It's not when you portray it on partners and friends and other things. It's not self-improvement. It's not going to encourage anybody to do anything. It is your ability and you trying to control the situation and control the pain that happens in our life because of shame. But it doesn't work. It's all about authenticity, about being real, about being whole, that makes the difference. It's not doing our best. So I return to the gifts of imperfection, and I'm trying to understand the reasons for violence. That's just where I've been for the last few months, is why is there so much violence? And even though the statistics say that it's really less violent in the world now than it's ever been, Lord, what was going on before? We didn't know, but it had to be, really, it had to be big stuff for it to be bigger than it is today. So I'm trying to understand this issue of violence, where it comes from. And it comes from all kinds of places. But I encourage you that if you have experienced shame, or if shame is a part of your nature, about your personality, if that is an issue for you, then I'm telling you, you can overcome. You do not have to stay there. You can change your mind at any time, because no matter what you've been through, you can overcome, because with God, all things are possible. You can overcome because God steps in and makes up the rest. When we run out, God steps in. Not from someplace else, from within us. So according to Brene Brown, she says, how do you deal with the shame? You deal with it with authenticity as a daily practice of letting go of other people's expectations of you. Now, the thing is often some of those expectations are healthy. They have good outcomes. But if we are controlled by shame, that is the problem. We cannot be controlled by shame. It is authenticity and practicing it on a daily basis that moves us away from the shame. We're supposed to be in our world and we are supposed to have boundaries, but we've got to have connection. Second, we have to embrace compassion as well as empathy. Empathy is identifying with another person, but compassion is not only do I identify with you, but I want to remove the pain. I want your healing. That's what healing is about. Love is compassion and healing. That's what it is. Third, we must develop connections. We can only overcome shame with meaningful relationships. You cannot do it on your own, isolated all the time. You will tell yourself all kinds of things. It is in meaningful relationships. And this is what develops in a healthy faith community. Because I want to talk about why do we come here? Because it's a healthy community, a healthy faith community. And that's when you can be authentic, you can deal with your shame, and you can overcome. Because we're going to tell you you're whole, perfect, and complete, and look at all your craziness at the same time. Because we know it to be true, because if I look in the mirror, I see mine. I just ain't admitting to it unless you got video. You can be authentic in your relationships in a healthy faith community. That's what it's about. There is value to being together and having relationships and participating. And you can get some of it online, but you can't get all of it online. I'm here to tell you, online is a really nice thing, and I love having it too, honey, but I ain't got no love from there. Any kind of love there is not real, okay? Because love is three-dimensional, not two. If there's of any value of being in community, it is because we support one another through our shame, and you can be authentic. You can't find three of us alike. Ain't it wonderful? We kind of draw all kinds of folk. I like it. If I'm in a room and everybody's like me, I got to get out of there because this is a sick place. But you can only do this in a healthy faith community. If you are in a faith community that tells you that you are lost and broken and there's no good about you and you're a wretch undone and a worm and all that kind of stuff, that is not healthy. And if you think about it, they tell you that and then all you have to do is pray this prayer and it just all goes away. But you still feel the same way, but you better not let anybody know you still feel the same way. And that's where we hide the shame and we lack our authenticity because we hide. We are where the healing presence actually occurs. We're not the only one. There are other imitators of us out there in the world. But it's healthy faith community that makes the difference. It is developing meaningful relationships that we can only do by being together. There is something special about feeling the passion and the energy and the love that we experience when we're together. And yes, I think even when I think of it and I'm not here, it's still good. I actually look to get back here by Sunday evening after I have my nap. I want to get back here because there is something that happens. Now, I was not always like that. My role model when I was a kid was Mr. Spock, okay? I'm a diehard techie, hon. And the thing is, and I can do it on both hands at the same time. The thing is why did I admire him so much? It's because he dealt with life with no emotion. And I just didn't want to get hurt. I lived in a world where I felt I was all different than everything that was going on around me. I didn't look like my parents or anybody or anything. I didn't look like the people in my neighborhood. I go to school. I was, Anglican and Episcopalian, and I was going to a Catholic school. I mean, it's all kinds of things were going on, right? And so you just never feel apart. So I didn't want to I didn't want to be an emotional person. But you deny yourself the beauty of life. I am so thankful for our belief structure. I am so thankful that we can be authentic with one another. And if we get judged by one another, nobody cares. Because if we dig a little bit, we'll find out your mess too. But this only happens in healthy faith community. These seats are empty, but there are people who need to be here. Because it only happens in healthy faith communities. We remind you every time that you are whole, perfect, and complete. Yet we acknowledge that you may have to change your mind every now and then. There will be times you don't feel like God is all there is. But it's true, and we just remind one another and love one another through it all. That's what we do. That's healthy faith communities. This is where shame is managed and dealt with in healthy faith communities. Healthy families, healthy experiences. People that will love you unconditionally. Sometimes when it looks pretty ugly. We are spiritual, not religious. Now let me tell you something. If I change that PowerPoint and I go out of order, you can see the panic on everybody's face here. We say, we're not religious. Don't change something. Because let me tell you, I mean, it just fascinates me. I go, what's the big deal? So the PowerPoint's out of order or the computer doesn't work. You got to roll with it. 20 years ago, though, I'd have been sick. Okay? I would have been sick because I was a perfectionist. I wasn't type A, but I was A-. Easy. And nobody could do anything for me. I had to do it all for myself because nobody was going to do it right unless I did it. All kind of crazy stuff. But that is trying to control the pain to prevent ourselves from being rejected. We are intentionally inclusive. Why? Because somehow or another, I just found out in life I was just odd. And I think everybody was. It's just that other folks was good at lying about it and I wasn't. I couldn't hide too easily. I would try to be in situations and just mix into the background, but it just didn't work. 5 minutes after something happened, either I'm running my mouth or telling somebody off or something. I can never be that covert. We look for people who don't find a home, a spiritual home, someplace else. We think they can find it here. Because in community, in good faith, healthy communities, we establish, we prepare the shame, and there's a healing presence. We develop resistance to the shame. We overcome the secrecy and all the things that create limitation for us. We will remind you that you are more than enough. You have been designed and built with infinite possibilities. They're still there, and as long as there's breath in your body, it can still come forth. We will remind you that you are enough. We have to do that for one another because sometimes when we show up here, we don't want to acknowledge it, but we need a little love when we get here. But the thing is, I know when I get here, there are about 5 to 10 people I know who are going to hug me when I hit the door. No matter what the situation, and they did it with a mask on and anything else. And some of them, I don't even know how we got established. But somehow or another, there is love that is just shared. That's this one spirit that we share that transcends all of our intellectual knowledge. This is how God is expressed through us. We repair and heal one another. We stand in the gap in places where people are feeling weak. But we have to be authentic. If we are not authentic, what we do is we don't let anybody know that we need help. And worst, we don't acknowledge that we need help. Because I'm not going to tell you I need it sometime, but I do expect it to show up. And it does every time. Even though it gets close, I go, oh, God, maybe you're going to leave me out here by myself this time. But it just always shows up. We get to choose how to live this divine life. We could be rich and not know it. You can be whole and not know it. So we have to remind one another that you are whole, that your brokenness, as well, which is part of your imperfection, is right there with being whole, perfect, and complete. It's all the same. It's never either or. It's always totally inclusive of who we are. Holmes writes about Emerson. He says, "The infinite is one, the original flame. And we know the authentic effects of the true fire through every one of the million disguises. We just disguise God to the rest of the world." Recently, I heard a song, and I loved the lyrics. It just transformed me, and I'm going to share them with you. It says, "I can be real with you." This is a song about spirit, about your relationship with God. "Say anything and not be afraid. You made me, and you like what you made. You made me, and you don't make mistakes. I can be real with you. I hope that you feel that you can be real with the spirit that is within you. Because it knows anyway. And if you just recognize it and acknowledge it, all the power in the presence of the universe is there to restore you, to heal the shame and put you in a different position, to just change our minds. To just change our minds. We will not survive. We will not live a full, enriched, and wholesome life being bound by shame. And whatever you have been through, no matter what it is, you can overcome. You can overcome. I wish I could say that it wouldn't happen to you, but that's not the issue. The issue is it's going to happen. That's called life. But you can overcome whatever it is. Whatever caused the shame and the hurt was only repaired by authenticity, and it is repaired in healthy communities. And I hope you feel that this is a healthy faith community, because it sure is for me. And so it is.